Hello, and welcome back to Board to Life. Today, we are doing our first unboxing video of a game called Dragon Eclipse by Awaken Realms. And if you don't know this game very well, it is an absolutely massive box. Hand for scale. And the best quick way I can use to describe this game is it's essentially if Pokemon was made by Awaken Realms, because if you're familiar with Awaken Realms, they have a lot of miniatures in their games, they're generally a little more complicated, and they're quite large, hence the box. And I actually have the collector's edition version of the pledge, so I will be showing several different boxes, not just the core box. And because this is a special edition version of the box, it is a bigger box than the normal retail version, and it has all the little fun things, including stretch goals. Let's see how many times I bumped the camera today. Okay, let's begin. So, right at the start, I noticed there's a lot of random stuff on top here. Let's go through it real quick. So we have some status sheets, which I believe are for saving your progress, as well as the roguelite version of the, I have it upside down. The roguelite version of those sheets. And then we seem to have some form of maps here. I think these are actually for the stretch goal adventure. And these actually go together. So we'll put those to the side. And then we have this, which appears to be some form of like save sheet. I think this is a world map maybe, because I went through the PDF of the rules beforehand. And this does appear to be the world map, so you slot cards into this to create a map. Let's actually open that up, just so it has less glare. Be right back with that. Okay. That actually looks quite nice. I mean, you're still going to have some glare, I guess. But basically, you'll be able to slot the cards into these sections here. And it's just like a nice little thing to show your map. Okay. Then we have the tokens. And these actually look quite nice, despite being cardboard tokens, of course. Now, I know there are a lot of acrylic tokens as well in this, because this is the special edition, and we'll get to those later whenever they come up in the box. But I'll be punching those out later. And then we have the Perilous Seas Adventure Journal. It's almost too big to fit in the camera. But this is essentially the adventure for the stretch goals. There's just a smaller, I think it's like 2 or 3 scenarios. And I don't want to go through all the text because that's just the entire story. But I will show the various little art pieces here. If I can find any others. That might be the only one. Nope, there's another one. Because I don't have the art book, but this still looks pretty nice. Okay. Oh, sorry. That's number 2. Let's see how many times it happens. So now we have this start here. So we have a 30 to 40 minute unboxing instructions. Now, I believe that's more for the sake of sorting the cards based on the different mistlings. If you don't know, the mistlings are the different little creatures. I'm not going to go through that in this video directly. I'll probably do the card sorting part of it and show it at the end of this video, but I'm not going to go through it separately. I will be doing it later though. Plan to do a lot of future content on this game. Now, the Dragon Eclipse rule book, we're looking at 36 pages. And I'll just do a little flip through of this. We got nice pictures. I actually read through the PDF version of that. It's pretty well written, actually. It's very clear. Okay, so I will be, if I'm smart, putting in a overview of all these miniatures, just quickly the models later. But for now, I will just take this part off so there's less glare and just show the general tray. And then these all look really good. If you don't know Awaken Realms, their miniatures always look phenomenal. Which is why I always want to make sure I get the special edition of these games, because if you have the standard version, you actually have little standees instead. I'm just going to show this one, if they can't. There we go. So the detail on this is always really great. Okay. So, oh, I just realized there's a little Oh. So it actually, I didn't realize that, but that's interesting. So this tray, it's not on the other tray, but this is like the stuff for the core game on this tray. And then we have a stretch goals section for all the stuff that's covered by stretch goals. I know it's hard to see with the glare, but the tray does outline where it is. So we have the stuff from stretch goals, and we actually have the follower gift thing here, which I'm kind of surprised they put into the core box. But like this is the thing. So if you followed the campaign and then backed it during the original campaign, you get this, which is the young Luminessa starting creature. So instead of having to start between Emberling and Iceling, you can instead take Luminessa, which would be a light type. Put that back, if I can. Okay. And then we continue. So, looks like we have something to open up here. I'm going to take this out of its little wrapper and we'll be right back. Okay, so there's actually a couple things within that. I'm just going to set it over here for a second. So first, if I can get it off the paper, we have this, which is a spiral. Actually, I'm going to slide the box back so I have more space here to show this. We have the spiral-bound adventure booklet thing. So we have different locations. I'm just going to flip through these real quick. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just for the sake of showing some of the art and what the maps look like as you're playing, these are the non-combat maps. Oh, we actually have a vertical one. I don't know if that's 3 or 4 times I bumped it, but oh well. We have like a vertical one here. Blue sky background, interesting. And we have those. So, there's also just this random sheet of like cardboard / paper that was there to hold it all together for packaging. And then we have this, which is the combat spiral bound book thing. So this is essentially your board for combats. And we'll actually get to this later, but there's actually playmat versions of a lot of these because I have the playmat version and we'll be showing those. But these all look pretty nice. You kind of get an idea of like the hexes that you're going to be moving around, where you're going to put your cards and stuff. If I can close this, set it to the side. Keep stacking it on top over here, I think. Okay, back to the main box. We have a nice little piece of foam. I always like the good foam in there. And we have a very thick book here, the Adventure Journal. So this is kind of similar to that Perilous Seas one. I'm not going to go through all the art, but I am just going to kind of flip through it here and get an idea. There's a lot more pictures in this one, but that is mainly probably because it's just so much bigger. And this is where you're going to find all your scripts. There's also an app, which I might be using, but it's fun to see the art and the fact that they do give you this nice book instead of requiring an app, because that's definitely an extra cost to have the book that they could have avoided, and they chose not to. I bumped it again. Okay. So this is 2 things. Put that over there for the moment. So this is I believe the Mistling Encyclopedia is what they called it. And it's like a little spiral binder thing that has Dragon Eclipse on the front and a slight gradient on the back. And I'm guessing in here we're going to have the sleeves that go into this so you can actually slot cards in here. So let's actually open up this little white box thing and see what's inside. So, one second, let's get these out first. You may notice we have what's essentially booster packs here, and that's what they're called. However, and they say like Awaken Realms and everything on the back, this game does have a little bit, they're trying to replicate like the TCG feel here, but nothing here is actually random, because everyone that buys the game is going to get these same cards in the packs. Like each pack has a, I believe, ID somewhere on it, maybe, because these are only in the special edition. In the non-special edition, you get all the cards for these, and you have to sort them into little folders, which I should have somewhere in here as well. But essentially, when you're playing through this, it will just randomly tell you, open a pack, and then you add that to the cards you have available. So everyone's going to have the same cards. It's not like completely random or anything. but they're trying to replicate that feeling of that. And it's still random which one you pick. So we got 6 of those over here, which totals up to, I believe, 10 because there's 4 more here. So yeah, we have 10 of those booster packs. And then we have the Young Luminessa this is the follower gift. And I'll actually open this one up because it's separate, and I'll show the components here. Okay, so within that little package, we have a selection of, or a couple different things. One is just like the list of components, because it's technically an add-on you could pay extra for otherwise, but it was free for followers during the campaign. And just the stuff it has, the little description of the Mistling. Actually, I'll read that real quick. I won't go through this with every one of them, obviously, right now. Maybe in a future time. But young luminessas are curious little mistlings drawn to sunny and warm places. They trust others easily, but if you hurt them, they won't forget it for years. In battle, young luminessas charge their inner brightness and release it to scare enemies. And they do specify you need the core box to play this expansion, in case you didn't know. So this just has a little like setup, so if you're playing with young luminessa as a character in the game, you know what to do with it at the start, because it's not part of the core game technically in the standard edition. We have the little standee version of it in case you didn't get the miniature version of the game. And we showed the model earlier, actually. But we have a little tier card here of young luminessa, and I'll be quickly going through some of the other ones later, but not to this extent, because this one's separate. So you have the arena, enemy cards. So the arena card will be when you're first fighting it, I believe. Major corruption you're giving it, tamed cards, and then the Mistling Encyclopedia location, which is for the binder. And then we have, let's see, looks like we have one like stat card for this. Oh, so the front of the stat card would be if you're just playing it in the game normally or playing against it. The back is for PvP, and I think the idea is that it balances out their stats a little bit more. Whereas with the adventure, they're not necessarily as balanced because they shouldn't be. You have the card for the special abilities, which... Oh, actually, no, this is the when you're fighting it ones, because it has these symbols here, which determines what it's doing. So gaining brightness, which is an elemental token, which we will show later. Gaining brightness, attacking for both of these, different range. A pierce here, which I believe would bypass the armor stat. Oh, it actually has armor too. That's interesting. Kind of unexpected for what it is. And then just attacking and retreating. And then its special ability is to deal damage in any range for every brightness you have on it. And then you discard all your brightness, so it like charges up its light and then releases it, just like the description said. And then you can also gain a brightness. And then the special ability version for... I don't know what that one is actually. Oh, I think it's just saying what cards you're putting in the deck when you set it up. And then we have the card for taming it, which would be exhaust it. And then if it has 5 or less health left, you complete that step, you place a universal marker here, and then you move on to this, which is using 3 bonus actions in 1 turn while having at least 10 cards in your discard pile to overpower it. And then when you complete all of these goals in order, you successfully tame it and end the combat. Now, I will mention, if you're doing PvP, you can't win by taming, because you can't tame your opponents. It says that word for word in the rulebook, you cannot tame your opponents multiple times. Don't try to. And then we have the Young Luminessa art card here. I'm guessing that's for the encyclopedia. I'm not entirely sure though. And then I believe this is the... Oh, that's kind of a fun back. I wonder if those like go together to actually make something in the encyclopedia. I'm kind of curious now. So this bonus action special ability is for, we'll call it energy for now because I don't remember the technical name. Fading light. You deal 1 damage in any range for each brightness you have and discard a brightness. It's essentially the special ability that the enemy had, but similar concept. And then, oh yeah, they have quests for these. So it's a combat quest. and you're essentially trying to complete that, and then it gives you the Exalted version. So Exalted is kind of like evolving it. It doesn't change the miniature, but it changes the stats. So like comparing these two comparing the Young Luminessa to the Exalted version of the Young Luminessa, you can see how much stronger that one is in the stats here. But essentially, if you complete this quest at some point, which would be ending a combat without taking any damage, or, well, your health is still full, which is not necessarily the same if you can heal. And if you do that, you can flip the card. And it looks like the arena card for this is the Gloomy Forest. So just different. It tells you the terrain setup, the different rules for that, which would be basically eating berries for energy. And then we have the Luminessa cards that are unique, and this is a divider actually for sorting the Luminessa cards, and there's one of those for every Mistling. And I think that this is true with all of them, but Luminessa has 6 cards unique to them regarding their actions. So we'll just go through those real quick, just because this is a separate add-on. So Bask in Sun Rays, you discard the top 3 cards of your deck, you gain a brightness, which is always going to be shown when they mention an elemental token, for every light card discarded this way, and then you gain an energy for each neutral card discarded this way. There's 2 of those. We have Brilliance, which is gain a brightness, and then you may spend 2 energy to gain 1 additional brightness. And then you can move, deal 2 damage, and range 2. Then we have Brilliance. So you gain a brightness, you can spend 2 energy to gain 1 additional brightness, and then you can move and deal 2 damage and range 2. We then have Light Vortex. So you gain 1 brightness, and you may spend 2 energy to gain an additional brightness. Attack and range 2. And then, I don't know that symbol actually, but I'll figure it out eventually. To gain a brightness. There's 2 of that as well. So those are the Luminessa unique cards. And I'll scoot that to the side and we'll be right back. Okay, so next we have these. And being that there's 10 of them, I'm going to say that these are probably the booster packs. So if you go through and play the empty versions. So if you have the standard edition, this is what you have instead of those foil boosters that we showed earlier. And if you decide to replay the campaign, since those kind of get destroyed when you use them, you can put the booster cards in here, and there's directions telling you how to do that. And then these would just fold over and seal just like the boosters do. It's just a little less exciting. You lose a little of the mystery because you know what cards are in it technically. Not that you'll remember everything, but still. And then I'll open up this little wrap, and actually I'll just do this one easily because I don't have to cut it. Okay, so this, throw that over there, is the Mistling Encyclopedia sleeves. So these go into the encyclopedia. Let's actually put them in the encyclopedia. I'm going to assume they go in the order they are. It's interesting how much it jumps around. And they're not all the same. I don't think that's an issue. I think that's just how it is, but it's interesting. We put those in, and we have these. And then you'll just slot their Mistling cards in here. And you'll know what they are then. This is your little encyclopedia. It's really fun. Okay, and then that white box is empty. I'm going to keep that box, though, because I'm pretty sure I need it still. Put these boosters to the side a little bit. And then we're going to pull the box back over. So we're getting really deep into the box now. And let's remove this little... Actually, let's go down here first. It's probably easier to remove this little thing. So we have this little storage container thing. I'm not entirely sure what it's for. It might be, oh, I bet I know what it's for. Because you're normally allowed to have 2 Mistlings in your party at any given time. So this is probably where you store their current decks. Or if you're playing with 2 players, each player's deck. Because you can play this multiplayer still. It's a great solo campaign or a great duo campaign. It's also 2-player PvP. And if you have the add-on, which I will be showing later in this video, you can then play 4-player PvP as well. We'll set that little storage piece to the side there. And then we have another little storage tray here, but this one actually has some stuff in it currently. So we have spots for all of the little markers here, all the various tokens, both in the cardboard punch-out stuff from earlier, and these. So I'm not entirely sure what slots these are supposed to go in yet, but I will open this up anyway, because these are your little energy tokens. And I'm not sure if Standard Edition has the acrylic versions of these, or if they just have more of a cardboard punch-out version of it. But either way, these ones look really nice. They're like little crystals. Don't know how well that can be seen on camera, but it seems decent. And they're really fun, actually. I like how they feel. I really like the fact that they're not like perfectly round. It just adds to the effect for some reason. Let's just put those right there. I'm not sure if that's where they're supposed to go, but it's where they're going for now. And then we have the elemental tokens we keep talking about. Not lose any here. No, only 2. Lost 2. So these actually have various symbols depending on the element, and if I just drop those in there for now. If I pull up like this fire one, there's actually 2 different sides to it. There, let's get the camera to focus. There we go. There's a white side and there's a black side. So the white side is for you, like the player. The black side is for your enemies if they're using it. And then in PvP, it's player 1 and player 2, because there's a lot of effects that matter who's controlling the token. Okay. I will put this to the side, and we have one more section here, which I'll probably just completely remove from the box anyway, if I can, just to make... It's quite heavy. I think this is where the cards are, because we haven't really gotten any cards yet. So I'll probably just leave this in the box, actually. So we remove the little Dragon Eclipse plastic thing. It covers it. We remove the foam that covers it. Now, I normally do like to sleeve cards in games, but just because this is a campaign game and because of the amount of cards, I won't be sleeving all of them. I'll probably be sleeving the most commonly used ones, though. We got some extra bags here. Put those to the side. Silica gel, the best part of any game. Don't eat it, as they say. Ooh. I didn't realize that was in here. So apparently, I'm not sure, I'm going to open these up in a moment. These are the alternative art cards, actually. And you'll get a better view of those in a moment. I didn't know that they actually gave us these in the core box. It might be a stretch goal thing, but I thought it was only paid add-ons, that I wasn't aware of getting that. However, we have this little inventory card. I'm not sure what this is and why it's packaged separately from everything else. So let's take a look at this one specifically, because I'm not going to go through every card in this entire thing, but I will go through some stuff. Oh, no, these are card dividers. So these divide up your little cards, such as the items, I'm guessing, and the potential random encounters that you're going to have with enemies. Let's put those right here for now, because I'm going to need to go through that for sorting. I really want to open up these alternative art cards in a moment, but I'm just going to go through and see if there's any of these I should open up before sorting the entire game. So we got some different exploration cards, all sorts of cards here. These little ones. Corruption. I'm not going to go through all these now. I'll go through some of them after I sort it when it's relevant, or that will be shown in this video still. Let's just put those back. See if there's anything else I want to specifically show. Mistling cards. More mistling cards. More mistling cards. 1.3. Wait, so that was 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. More mistling cards. Actually, no, these are mistling action cards. So that's a little bit different. More mistling action cards. More mistling action cards. Other action cards, so the ones that aren't bound to a specific mistling. Other action cards. If I can not drop it and have it hit the camera. other cards in general. And then what appears to be the actual Mistlings themselves, and probably some other stuff since it's so thick. We have Drosithia first. We'll definitely be going through some of these kind of things later. I really like the art in this game, actually, as to some of the other Awaken Realms games, which I don't care as much about the drawn art usually. This is just more sorting, like, divider things. I'm not going to bother showing those since they're all going to be the same art, just with different names. And then we have more dividers, I believe. I'm actually going to go ahead and sort through all this after I show off these fun little alternative art cards. And then we'll come back. But let's do this first. Gotta open up some amount of these cards right away. If I can. It's probably a better way to open this, but it works. Okay. So, ooh, these are actually really nice. So it's hard to tell here, but obviously this area is specifically like foil on the like card itself. But this like area down here with the text, not only is it not foil, it's actually like a weird, like, I don't know how to describe it, like a rougher texture on the card too. That's really fun. I'm between really wanting to sleeve that and not wanting to sleeve that because you can't feel it if you sleeve it. Okay. Oh, that's really cool. Okay. I didn't realize those were part of this. So these are actually external artists from Awaken Realms that did alternate versions of the original cards, essentially. So I'm not going to necessarily go through the text of these cards. You can pause it if you can read the text and look at it yourself if you want. I'm just admiring the artwork on these. So we have Sprouting Darkness. Oh, also, basically any of these areas that are actually like white background are of like rougher texture. It's not just this, I just realized. That's really fun. And then we have Undying Light. And these are all the same for that. Zephyr Speed. Firebolt. Boulder Throw. Cost in Blood. And then we're back to Sprouting Darkness. So there's 6 promo cards from that artist. I'm not sure if those are for various... Actually, I know they're for various Mistlings because they have different elemental symbols. And then I think we have 2 more artists of stuff. One of 6 cards and one of 3 cards. So let's look at these ones. These are definitely a darker style. Skyward Assault. And these are the same thing generally for the style. There's a red reflection. This one's less of a pure foil and more of just reflective. And then the rest of it's like a rougher matte finish, which is kind of interesting to see on these cards because usually you don't. We got Geokinetic Grab. Blinding Radiance, which I don't think was in the Luminessa starting deck. Combustion. Lurking Shadow. Ice Shard. And then back to Skyward Assault. These are really cool. I like those. I wasn't expecting to see like that level of detail on a card like that. Ooh, I like these next ones. So these are more of a full color version, but it's the same idea that like this bottom part has that like rougher matte finish. Like it actually has texture to it. And then there's like little flecks of that around wherever you see these shards here. So Storm. We have Fiery Rage. And we have Curse Upon Us. Which is quite interesting, just the way they did these. I really like these alternate art cards. I know I said that already, but I just said it again. Okay, so we'll put those back in the box. And I'm going to go through and sort everything following that 30 to 40 minute guide. And we'll be back after that. Okay, I have sorted it all out now. So, well, the majority of it I can. And we have all the tokens sorted by different elements, as well as the damage tokens, generic like A and B / just their universal round markers that have a black and white side, as well as some of the coins and things like that. I have the little crystal things that I really like. These are actually called power, I found out. I've double checked that now. And I'll also mention, if I didn't earlier, that these various elemental tokens have a white side for the player and a black side for the enemies. Same thing goes for the universal markers. As to the cards being sorted, it definitely takes a while. 30 to 40 minutes might be a bit of an understatement, like it says in the thing over there. I'd say it took me a little bit more, and I actually have the special edition, so I don't even have to rearrange the booster packs for it. So it could take you even longer. But now we have all those tokens as shown, and then along here we have all the different mislings here, as well as the various other cards over there, and some of the cards of the encyclopedia and like items and stuff over here. And then I just put the promos in there. And I did double check, the promos are not an extra paid thing for these ones. These are a stretch goal thing, so if you have the standard retail edition, you won't have those, but they are just an alternate art anyway, so it won't affect your gameplay. And now we're going to close up this box and head over to the next one. But I'll go through this on camera so you can just see how this gets repacked, because I know people struggle with that sometimes. So we're just putting the plastic pieces back on top. And this little thing does stay empty for now. I believe this is in fact to hold the player decks. And then we take the Miscellaneous Encyclopedia, which I actually have my packs stored in right now on top of the encyclopedia pages, because that's where they were originally and it fits. Take the foam. You don't need any of the other pieces of foam, but keep that piece of foam. It's helpful. The Adventurer's Journal, followed by the Combat Arena one, as well as the story, like map one. And then we take the big mistling tray, and we put it in. And we take the smaller mistling tray and put that in as well. It doesn't really matter what order you do those two. I think I actually did them backwards, but it's fine because it doesn't matter. And then we'll put the Start Here guide, as well as the rule book, the Perilous Seas Adventurer's Journal, the world map little sleeve thing there, the Perilous Seas like adventure pages, and then if I can get them out of the cover here where I put them, I only got one, but the status sheets. Let's get the other ones out of here real quick. And you don't have to worry about these being damaged. You can actually print them. They are available as a file form along with the Open and Play and the rulebook in PDF form on Awaken Realms' website. So you can always print more of these. It is kind of a weird paper size on here, but it doesn't really matter if you use a full size instead. It would totally still fit in the box, and it would work just as well, if not better. I will also mention two little things. One is that you're going to have all these extra cards that were used for the sake of like categorizing what pack you're opening at the time. They say you can throw these away or you can keep them. It doesn't really matter. They're just there. And then if you have the follower gift of the Young Luminessa, you're going to have the extra sheet here as well as that. I'll also mention that if you are getting the special edition and you have therefore the extra mistlings and stuff for stretch goals, that it does not go through what to do with those in the actual Open and Play guide. It will go through how to do it with the other ones. You just have to basically follow the same process. Ideally, you put them in alphabetical order. Just slot them in with the other ones. If you've read the Open and Play because you're setting it up, that should make sense. And then all we have to do is put the cover on the box. That made a really nice noise. And we shall now move on to the next box. Okay, moving on to our first add-on. We have Untamed Arena. And I will mention, before we get too much into these add-ons, that the one big add-on I do not have is going to be Foray into the Shadow Realm. So I'm sure someone has something on that for showing what's in it, but I will not be able to as I do not have it. But this is Untamed Arena. So this is the 4-player PvP. So the core game allows you to play with 2-player PvP, whereas this would allow 4 players. That's just a nice little thing. It's 2v2 or free-for-all. And once again, I really like, it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but you can see it there, how they do the Dragon Eclipse on the clear covers. So if we remove that, we have the little guide to the added rules for Untamed Arena specifically. Interesting. And like again, they keep mentioning this, but you cannot tame opponents. Anyway, I'm actually gonna have to move this box to the side so we have space because there's a cardboard piece here actually, but we have a board. Now, this is actually a full-on board rather than just like one of those little book things. And there is a playmat version of this. I did not get the playmat version of this, but I will be showing off the playmats for the original game, or like the base game, separately. So this is the 3-player, I believe, side. Yeah, so this is the 3-player free-for-all side. And then the other side is the 4-player side, whether it's 2v2 or free-for-all. I think there's free-for-all still with this. I know there's 3-player free-for-all. Let's take a look. No, they're intending not for a 4-player free-for-all. So it's 3-player free-for-all on that other side, or 2v2 on this side. Anyway, I'll be showing this off here, and then I'll be showing off the playmats a little bit later for the core game. Let's put this over here for now. And I'll bring back the actual box. There's a little cardboard piece here, which we will get rid of. And we have a smaller token sheet to add the extra damage tokens and status tokens. We have some more of the little power things. I'm actually going to take those out right now and just, not lose them. So, we got the little power tokens. And then what do we have here? A couple little baggies. Oh, so we have Untamed Arena, like, environment cards. So, with the core game, you're going to have environment cards around. Sorry for the really random cut. But anyway, opening up these because what you're going to see in this box, for the most part, is you're going to see basically a lot of repeat action cards from the core game. So that when you're playing with 4 people, you can actually have enough for everybody. So we have strategy cards, and then we have some different arenas, essentially. I'll just go through these real quick if anyone wants to are these the same? Oh, so it's a setup side and then a rules side. So I'll just show the rules side here for each of these. If you want to look at it specifically, you can pause the video, of course. And then we have the strategy cards. Okay, get that little piece of plastic out of there. And then we also seem to have these fancier cards, which I will also open because all the others are pretty standard action cards that are going to be tied to the non-Mistling specific ones. So it's going to be all the elemental and all of the standard, including the ones that you'd find in boosters. Okay. So these, so these are some of the cards you get from the like fancier ones. So these have that weird texturing thing on them I mentioned with those alternative art cards earlier. So I'll just go through these quick for anyone that wants to pause and look at them. Lightning Strike, Nature's Patience, Fathomless Tide, Burning Demise, Gale Force Gambit, Groundbreaker Slam, and Revitalizing Cascade. I'm just going to do this real quick so they're in the same order in case it matters. It shouldn't, but in case it does. Okay. And I'm not going to show all of those. So we're going to close that up and we'll be right back on the next add-on. Okay, so for our next add-on, we have the Combat Deck Box, which this is kind of a plasticky material. Has some fun art on it. We're going to open it up. So, inside here, we actually have these two little smaller deck box things. And I'll show the other one too. But each one is a little box with some art on it, as well as a little divider in there. This is almost like a plastic fabric, almost. I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of an interesting material. And then we have card sleeves, actually. So I'm going to pull out the other little box here, because I think there's different card sleeves here, depending on the element you're looking at. Yeah. So let's open these up and take a look. Oh, so these are actually in different packs. So we have what's probably like a light, a shadow, more of like an earth kind of thing here. So you're having all 6 elements represented here. So you could have one deck for each element and have it fully sleeved still, without having to buy any external sleeves. And then we'll do these ones. Fire, I'm guessing, here. Water, and maybe, I don't know what that one's supposed to be. Maybe they're not all elemental ones. Either way, they all look nice. They're all different. Just a fun little thing to protect your cards. For our next and probably fastest to go through add-on here, we have the Egg Hunt, which is just like a comic book kind of thing. Very similar to Untold Stories from Nemesis. Now, I will mention, it does say 1 in the top corner, and initially that would have been kind of confusing, but later this year we have a campaign coming out for Dragon Eclipse The Grand Quest, which is a sequel. So, there'll probably be another one of these kind of things in there. I'm not going to fully go through this, but I will just flip through it quick. It's kind of a weird combination of like paperback, but also almost hardcover feeling here. Let's see if I can get this in a way that I can actually flip through it. Oh, we have a little picture of the full game setup. And then we have the like little comic book kind of thing. So interesting how it's a very different art style from the rest of the game. Well, that's it for the Egg Hunt. On to the next add-on. Now, I was going to actually do the terrain miniatures next. However, I had the idea that it would be more interesting if I go ahead and actually open up these playmats first, so I can put the terrain on the playmats when I show it. So let's go ahead and do that. This is a beefier box. There's no art on this one, but it is just playmats. There's 5 of them here. And I know these are double-sided. And I believe one side is usually going to be 1-player versions, and one side is going to be the 2-player versions. Put that over here. And I'll just go through each of these playmats. Let's get the box out of my view, though. There we go. Okay. Playmat number 1. Not sure this is the right direction. Okay. So this would be the 2-player side of the board and the 1-player side of the board. Yeah. I'm trying to see, is there a difference between these? I don't think so. They look quite similar. And I'm just going to leave that right there. And I will open up the next one and put it right on top. Okay. So now we have this more, that was more of like a lava flow kind of style. This is, are these all the same shape? They are, as far, so far at least. And then we have the more mystical forest style of mat. And these all still have like the cards stuff on the bottom here. And these are just to replace the otherwise using that spiral plan book that you'd have. These are just a nicer looking version. We have more of this cave system kind of idea. Both sides are going to look the same. It's just one's meant for 2 players. Once again, 2 more playmats. Got one here. Sorry. I don't know how many times that is now. We'll get a count at the end, maybe. This is the little forest area. I like this one, actually. It's a lot brighter. And the final playmat. Actually, I think this is potentially for Perilous Seas, the little stretch goal expansion. Because, oh, maybe not actually. It's hard to say. But there's a little ship and there's some water. And there's what appears to be a pit. Oh, and I noticed that spot's not there. So these boards are actually a little bit different from each other in layout as well. It's just art. I'm looking forward to using these. And they're all double-sided. That's actually really heavy when you pick those all up together. Okay. I'm going to put those back in the box, and we'll be right back for the last add-on. And for our final add-on for Dragon Eclipse, we have the Terrain Miniature Pack. And Silica Gel, our favorite. Okay. So I'm going to show off the main tray here first. So we have one main tray and then like a secondary one underneath. If I can take the little plastic piece off for now. It's a little more clear. I'll show all these actually right now, and then I can place them on the board. Okay. So we have 6 of these little unstable cones is what they're called apparently. And they're various different, come on camera. There's some slight differences, but for the most part they all look generally like this. And those will go on there. This is the singular crystal egg, which appears to be hatched already. This board is going to be full of terrain by the time I'm done with this. We then have 5 geysers. Camera. There we go. We have 2 of these portal miniatures, which are really fun. Now, if this was the newer version, it probably would have a dual material where you have like a clear plastic in the middle. They still look nice. And then we have, if I can get it out of the box, maybe, or maybe not, what I believe to be the swamp tokens, just to represent like a little bit of terrain there. It's a couple different, slightly different versions of that. And then we have the dangerous terrain, which looks like it, sorry. It looks like some spikes are almost teeth. And we have an ice wall, which I have a feeling is actually tied to one of the mistlings and not tied to just normal terrain, but I don't know. Put that over here. I wonder if that actually goes in between hexes. And that's another little swamp. I don't need to pull that out. So then we'll go on to the second layer. And we'll do one of the bigger ones first. We have a mystical tree. Which we'll put there. It looks kind of out of place on a volcano, but it's fine. We have these interesting, like, almost cultist statues. And I'll get a view of this board at the end just to see. And there's 2 of those, by the way. We have this little fallen tree. So, and then there's 2 machinery tokens, which are like gears. We also have volcanoes, which are actually going to be fitting to this area, unlike some of the, okay, come on camera. Unlike some of these other ones. We then have these stones. We have taken up half the board now, just using one of each. But there's only, I believe, 3 more types. One is the berries, which are a bush of berries, not just a single berry laying on the ground. That would be kind of weird. Followed by And there's 3 of those. Followed by 2, if I can get it out again. This one's tricky. 2 elemental wraiths. Kind of have like a weird like spirit look, hence the term wraith. And finally, the meteorite, which is probably related to some certain mistling or something again. And we'll go a little bit closer to the board for the sake of showing what this would look like. Obviously, you're not going to have this much terrain on the board at a time, but it's still interesting to see all of it together. That's all the terrain in one area on a playmat.